Has anxiety, panic, and depression taken over your life? Do you feel like you're being held back from living the life that you deserve, that you were meant for? If you or someone you know is suffering from anxiety and or depression, you really are in the perfect place. So stay with me as I tell you what no one will tell you about how to naturally overcome anxiety and depression, no matter how severe it is. First, I want to welcome all you powerful manifestors to the AOM Art of Manifestation channel. I am Manifestation Coach Sterling Meyer. Hit that subscribe button and tick the bell for notifications, and let's get going. So, what makes me credible when it comes to anxiety, panic, and depression? Who am I, and how do I know what I'm talking about to share this with you? Well, for nearly 10 years, I suffered from the most extreme and frightening anxiety, panic, and depression condition. I could hardly function on any level. In fact, I even developed agoraphobia for a short period of time. I spent so much money on therapies, doctors, and so-called experts in the field that I was forced to file for bankruptcy. And the worst part about it was that I was no better off than when I first sought the help I so desperately needed. These two disorders was so acute, I felt incredibly suicidal. I mean, I wanted to live, but I just didn't want to live with the 28 symptoms that accompanied this debilitating disorder. Symptoms such as shallow breathing, dizziness, unhealthy weight loss, extreme fatigue, muscle twitches, muscle pain and spasms, stomach disorders, cognitive problems such as concentration, comprehension, and memory. And yes, I tried anti-anxiety and depression medications, but the side effects were just as anxiety-causing and depressing as the disorder itself was. Also, I knew that medications would eventually stop being effective. This was no real solution. The truth is, medication was developed to be used for a very short period of time, like a few months, coupled with therapy, and that can be useful. However, thinking medication are magic bullets that can be taken for the rest of our lives is actually what they're not developed to be used for. Now, before I share with you what worked for me and has continued to work for me after 25 glorious years that I have been anxiety and depression free, I think it's important to understand first what this insidious disorder is. It is not a disease. It is a disorder. It is actually simply unmanaged stress. When stress is not being managed, it then shifts into anxiety. When anxiety is not being addressed and reversed, it advances to panic attacks. And when panic is not being treated, it jumps up to another notch, which is agoraphobia. Now, for me, knowing this allowed me to make sense out of this confusing ailment and remove the fear it was causing me. Okay, so if all it really is stress, then how do we reverse the stress that has mounted uncontrollably? What doctors don't tell you, nor will they offer, is that we must address all 5 triggers of anxiety and depression. In other words, doctors tend to address one aspect or trigger, such as with TFT, thought field therapy, a tapping of the bodily meridians technique for overcoming anxiety. Developer Roger Callahan states that the process can relieve a wide variety of psychological issues, including post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, addiction, and phobia. It is something I spent plenty of time studying and utilizing. However, even though it didn't hurt me, it didn't give me the necessary relief I needed to live a normal life. Other methods, I've tried cognitive behavioral therapy, craniosacral therapy, massage, meditation, yoga, acupuncture, changes in diet, such as eliminating food that can trigger anxiety and depression, like stimulants, coffee, caffeinated tea, chocolate, spicy foods, processed foods, sodas, and well, basically being on a very lean protein and vegetable diet, along with supplements to help with symptoms such as ashwagandha. Now, I pretty much tried everything. Nothing really disappeared my anxiety and depression. The behavioral cognitive therapy did help me not be so frightened of the disorder, which helped a bit with the panic I developed, a byproduct of developing fear of the disorder. However, if not all 5 triggers are addressed, you will continue to suffer from the disorder. Where's the progress in that? With little to no success, I began to study the disorder and how it had hijacked my body and mind. With this knowledge, I developed a program for myself to cure myself of this mental and physical plague for good. A quick note about how depression plays a part. Depression tends to accompany unmanaged stress because it's depressing to be suffering. We can even feel depressed when dealing with a common cold or flu because we are suffering and we don't want to. So depression is a normal result or a byproduct of anxiety and usually disappears as our anxiety and panic symptoms disappear, unless there is a situation in life that is the root cause of it. Now I'm going to list the 5 areas that must be treated simultaneously for overcoming this terrible condition. Now, number 1, physically. We must get some form of exercise to help shift our chemicals in the brain, to lower the stress hormone cortisol, and replace it with a feel-good chemicals like serotonin, dopamine, and endorphins. If you don't get that immediate relief, that's okay. It might take a little time for the body to understand that it needs to create these chemicals again, and it will. If exercise triggers anxiety and panic like it did for me, use positive self-talk to get you through it. I used to have an anxiety attack when exercising because I believed that I would most certainly trip or fall or faint and no one would ever find me. Most people's conditions are not as extreme as mine was. But I'm telling you this because if you are an extreme case, you can do this as I did. For example, use self-talk and or text a friend or family member and tell them that you're exercising for a length of time and you'll let them know when you are done. This kind of gives you some comfort that you're not alone and you're not going to faint and lie there forever. That was my concern. Number 2, mentality. Shifting our self-talk and the things we say to ourselves consistently, the way we have molded and created our beliefs. It is important to have something in place that allows us to become more aware of the reality we are creating in our minds and therefore reacting to it even if it's not a reality. We still behave as if it is, such as when we practice catastrophic thinking, when we conjure up worst case scenarios and vividly see it in our mind's eye. We begin to react as if it's real, but it's not. This is another way we create unnecessary anxiety, panic, and depression in our lives. Number 3, emotionally. What kind of emotions have we developed that are running our lives? Fear and trepidation? Or is it hope and great expectations? If it's the former, you can see how this triggers anxiety, panic, and depression. This area needs to be addressed and treated as well. Where are these crippling emotions coming from? Our lives today are mostly made up of what we created during our formative years from approximately 3 and 17 years old. Addressing the root is the best way to eliminate these self-made emotions that developed from the things we were taught, exposed to, and experienced. Number 4, spirituality. Now, whether you ascribe to a religion or open spirituality, or even if you consider yourself an atheist or agnostic, this is an area that makes up a part of who we are because who we are is energy. The flesh and blood that houses our spirit is not who we are, but a vehicle for our energy to travel in. If you do not consider yourself spiritual or believe in more than what you can see here on earth, it's still important to ground yourself. You can do this in nature quite easily. When we spend time in nature, being, not doing, just quieting ourselves, a huge shift can occur that lifts stress and shifts our perspective appropriately, leaving us lighter and freer than before. Now, number 5, physiologically. Your nervous system is on high gear. Your breathing has been affected. You may find you are breathing fast or shallowly or even holding your breath at times. Now, for me, it took someone to point it out before I even noticed it. Relearning to breathe is nothing I ever thought I would be doing. After all, it was the first thing I mastered the first moment I came into the world. However, improper breathing leads to triggering anxiety. And when we breathe improperly, we're telling our minds there's a reason for fight or flight, and we must act fast. So taking 20 minutes out of your day to practice proper breathing will help retrain your nervous system. Deep, even breaths in and out from the belly up is what you want to practice. When I first began practicing this, I noticed that practicing breathing normally actually made me anxious. Again, this is anxiety that's triggered whenever we experience a bodily change. Our mind and body inform each other. That means if we start the anxiety with thoughts, it will alarm the body. If we create anxiety through the body, it will inform the mind. This is why we need to address all aspects of ourselves completely and simultaneously on a daily basis. I don't expect any of these 5 things that are meant to reverse anxiety, panic, and depression to come naturally or easily. As I did, you'll be practicing things that are naturally the opposite of what you have become accustomed to. You may be uncomfortable and you may want to resist doing it, but it's simply because what you need does not come naturally. And the only way to change that is through practice. Consistent practice on a daily basis is the fastest route to reversing these disorders for good and without medication. If my acute extreme condition can disappear, and for 25 years now, it can for you too. Now, life can hand me some dramatic changes and I fear nothing. No anxiety. Even with some of the most challenging things I'll ever face coming into my life, it does not trigger anxiety or panic or depression any longer. That's why I know you can do this. I have helped countless people with this issue successfully. Right now, you have a choice. You can continue to suffer, take medications that come with side effects such as feeling agitated, feeling or being sick, indigestion, diarrhea or constipation, loss of appetite and weight loss, dizziness, blurred vision, dry mouth, excessive sweating, headaches, problems sleeping, insomnia or drowsiness, a low sex drive, difficulty achieving orgasm. Okay, this is common in men and women. Difficulty obtaining or maintaining an erection for men. There's a lot of side effects that come with this medication that we don't want, but we don't have to take medication whatsoever. Now, I'm not here to scare you, but I want to assist you in making an informed choice for yourself. Alternatively, you can address all 5 areas noted earlier on a daily basis to recondition yourself. You got here through conditioning. You can reverse it through conditioning. Note your progress daily. This is very important because you will need reassurance. You will need to see progress. If progress is being made, that is all that's important. Keep your eye on that versus the destination. If you need help overcoming anxiety, panic, and depression forever, feel free to contact us at getyourlifenow.com, and we are happy to set up a free consultation to discover whether this is the answer you've been looking for. If you've enjoyed this video, please show your support by subscribing to our channel so we can continue to bring useful and life-changing information to make your world and the world we live in a better place. Thank you so much for watching. And until next week, I hope you create magic and miracles in your life.